excited to be talking with you about the stay-at-home reading tag. So today we're going to be talking about the stay-at-home reading tag, since all of us, or rather most of us, are probably quarantined in our houses right now. But first I want to say I hope you're all doing well, staying safe, taking care of yourselves physically, mentally, and all the good stuff. And hopefully this will brighten your day a little bit. So number one, how is your reading going while staying at home? So it started off super strong, like almost a book a day or every other day. I was just not wanting to do much but read. And now I've like read all these really great books, and now I'm just kind of like, what do I read next? Doing a reread of the Harry Potter series, but I'm kind of looking for something to offset that and that mood. I'm in the middle of book 5 currently, so all the teen angst is happening, and it's understandable considering everyone's ages and what they're going through, but I like to read a few things at a time so that I can kind of contrast with what I'm reading. So looking for something else to kind of sink my teeth into. So keeping my eyes peeled and keeping up with the audiobooks as well as the physical books and ebooks, just to mix things up and try to get as many books read as possible. Question number 2. Where have you been reading? Mostly on my couch. Sometimes at night I'll read on my iPad before bed, but that's about it. Mostly on my couch in the living room. What's the best book you've read in isolation? So there are two. They are very different. The first of which, I've been on this like Regency kick, so if you're like a Jane Austen fan, then you totally get where I'm coming from. But the first one was Blackmore. It was the first book I read by this author, who is also very, very well known for her book Edenbrooke, and I just found Blackmore was such a great introduction to the author. It was just a great world to sink into, characters I really cared about and were very invested in from very early on in the book. The second one is a book by Malala Yousafzai. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. I previously read her book, I Am Malala, and this is kind of an updated book called We Are Displaced. It is about several short stories similar to Malala. She doesn't spend a lot of time talking about her story because she has a whole other book about it, but she's trying to bring to light that there are others in the world who are suffering, and there are others in the world who are going through extremely difficult political situations that are affecting their homes, their families, and their livelihoods, and, you know, just interfering with their lives. And regardless of political opinions, I thought this was just an eye-opening and very meaningful, impactful book that was important for people to read. Number 4, what's your favorite feel-good book? All right, so Friends and Foes by Sarah Eden. If I am having a bad day, like I did a few weeks ago, and I was just kind of like, I got this book out. I've read this multiple times, but it is one of my favorite, all-time favorite Regency romances. If you like Pride and Prejudice, you probably like this book. If you like Enemies to Lovers, if you like a book with someone with disabilities in it, I thought they were all really, really important elements of the story, and just the characterization was really fantastic. And this is a romance, historical romance, Regency romance, and it makes my heart happy. So that's on here. Number 5, what's a book you wish you could buy or pick up from the library? Since I do not often buy books, I typically I typically get them from the library. There are 2. First of which is a book that doesn't seem to be available in my library right now, but I want to request it, but not sure if anybody's gonna be able to move that suggestion along right now. And Becoming Lady Lockwood was recommended to me on Goodreads based on some other books I really enjoyed, particularly one about Greek mythology that I really enjoyed. So I'm kind of eager to see how that kind of works out. If I can get that, I'd really like to read that during quarantine. And then there's another author that I've recently discovered. I've seen her books on Goodreads, and the covers are beautiful. Not that I judge a book exclusively by its cover, but the cover's beautiful. But the author's name is Joanna Barker. Has a ton of like Regency romances, which has been something I've kind of been on a kick with lately and all up for. So I love the gentle manners and the respect and the nice romances. So yeah, that's what I've been looking forward to lately. So if I can find some more of them that are really well done, excited to see what these two authors have to, you know, explore. It'll be a fun world to dive into. Number 6. Who's an author you want to shout out during this time? So the author of the Friends and Foes book, Sarah Eden, has been really, really awesome. I know there have been a lot of authors who are doing a lot on social media right now, but she is doing a Penny Dreadful read-along, which is really cool. It's called The Mysteries of London, I believe, and it was written around the time of Charles Dickens by one of Charles Dickens' like competitors, and I find that it's really interesting. She reads 1 chapter per day and posts it on YouTube. You can find that on her Instagram page or her social media. But what she's starting to do is she's going to be posting them 1 week at a time, so and posting 7 days worth. So you can watch them 1 day at a time, or you can do what I do and I just watch maybe 3 or 4 of them at a time. They're not very long. They're usually between like 10 to 15 minutes, and I like to do crossword puzzles or something while I listen to it, or do stuff around the house. So I think that's really neat. She also gives like inside scoops, like you can ask her questions and she answers them once a week. She's also done a few lives, either lives with other authors or lives with just her, where you can ask her questions about her stories, about what she's writing on. She's very transparent in terms of talking about the things that are important to her as an author and the things that she's doing to kind of keep herself occupied during quarantine. And I just watched her, she had a live last week that I got to ask her some questions and she answered one of them. I was so excited. But she talked about books with disabilities and how they are a priority to her, and incorporating characters with disabilities into her books, and just everything she said was awesome and I was all about it. And I'm just like over here like, I look for books that have disabilities, and I didn't really equate too many of her characters as those with disabilities, but thinking back on it, I'm like, yes. Some are the main characters, some are side characters, but I just feel like there's so much represented in her books and I am all about it. And I was excited. She said she's going to keep incorporating disabilities into her books, her stories, and I just think it's so awesome to have that representation. And there are a lot of people with disabilities in the world who don't see themselves reflected in fiction. And I think it's important to support those authors who represent people with disabilities and share them with the world. And show that they are deserving of love and happiness and all that good stuff, because they certainly are, just as much as anybody else is. So I think it's important to represent them in fiction. Okay, now that I've shared like so much about fangirling, I'm going to talk about number 7, the last question. What's your reading rush TBR? So I found out about Reading Rush like way too late in the game to participate, but I will tell you about a few of the books that I want to read in the upcoming days/weeks. First one is You Are Mine, which is like a romance story mixed with music, which I'm like, okay, let's check this out. One that I've been wanting to read for a while, and I'm like, well, I'm home, I'm quarantined, why not? So the second TBR book that I want to get to is Beach Read, and this one I have a copy of. Beach Read I also won on a Goodreads giveaway. This is super popular. I think this just came out. Does it have the date on here? What does it say? No, it's not yet. It's May 19th, unless they moved it up because of quarantine, but on here it says May 19th. So very interested. This seems like a really sweet romance. This seems like polar opposites, but the next 3 months they're living in neighboring beach houses. So it seems that they are both in a creative rut. So I'm kind of interested to see what their meeting brings about. So I'm eager to see what this story entails, and I'd really like to get to this book soon. And then last but not least, a book I do not have a copy of, but I'd like to soon. It's the Kingdom of Back, like backwards, but it's a story, it's a fantasy story based off of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and his sister, who affectionately he calls Nano. Many people know about Mozart, his prolific compositions to music. He wrote over 600 compositions during his lifetime, and he's so incredibly well known today as one of the most iconic composers of all time. Many people do not know that his sister was just as talented as he was. Of course being the time period that they lived in, the gender that she was, and the expectations for her gender to marry and have a large family impeded her father's expectations of her career. So it's very interesting that this fantasy story enables, I don't know too much about it, but I know it enables Nannerl to travel back in time and gives her an opportunity to make a different choice with her life. Perhaps pursue her musical career and see where that takes her, become a composer herself. So I'm eager to see what the author does with that story. It's a story I find really interesting. There's a really great book about the story of Mozart's sister. I will put it right here because I don't remember the name of it, but it was really well done. It's a children's book that has a lot of great facts about Mozart and his sister growing up, them pursuing musical studies, studying their instruments, and then being able to travel all around Europe in carriage. And basically they grew up with just each other. They didn't have a lot of time to socialize with other people their own age, so they became each other's best friends and confidants. And when Nannerl reached a certain age, her father said, okay, now you're going to stay home, you're not going to go on tour anymore. He pursued for her to find a husband, and she was married, and she moved a few hours away from her childhood home. Meanwhile, Mozart continued to travel, continued to tour, continued to be a prolific musician that we know and love today. So I find that really, really interesting. I love music history, and I'm eager to see what the Kingdom of Back does with that. So that's my stay-at-home reading tag, and I hope that you have some books that you're enjoying staying at home. If you're finding any good books that you're like super loving during quarantine, please comment them down below. Whether they're classics, whether they are contemporaries, romance, whatever. Let me know what they are, and I'd love to hear about them. So I hope you're doing well. Keep finding some books to keep you happy and safe during quarantine, and I'll chat with you guys soon. Bye.